Welcome back to Teach English Now. In this video, you'll see three teachers in assessment action, and our commentators will point out the good, the bad, and the ugly to help you evaluate these teachers' performance. Before we get to that, however, let me just remind you of some key concepts we've covered in the first three lessons in this module. You'll need to keep these concepts in mind as you watch each of these example teachers. The first key concept is the idea of alignment. Remember our example of the wheels on a car? Your objectives, learning activities, and assessments are just like those wheels and should be all pointing in the same direction and towards your larger learning goals. The second key concept is the difference between memory and knowledge learning. If your goal is something other than communication, memory learning can be useful, but most teachers would agree that knowledge learning is more helpful to students. The third key concept is the idea of performance-based assessment. Having students analyze information and evaluate ideas as they create something to show their ability in the target language is the best way to determine if they have met your objectives. And the last key concept I want to mention is having a clear rubric and providing models for students. When students know what is expected of them, and you have a clear understanding of how to provide students with feedback, they will gain much more from your assessments. All right, it's time to see our first teacher example.
Okay, class, we've just read the first three chapters of Huckleberry Finn by Samuel Clemens, also known as Mark Twain, and I've briefly lectured on the ideas of character, setting, and plot. So my goal in teaching you these things was for you to be able to analyze a story by looking at these parts. Now I'm going to ask you to get in groups of three. You're going to spend some time talking about the characters we've read from Huckleberry Finn in your groups. Specifically, I want you to focus on the three questions that I've written on the board. Who are the main characters and supporting characters of the story? What is the setting of the story and has it changed? And what events have happened in the story? Once you have answered these three questions in your groups, I'll ask you to come up to the board and share your answers with the class. Each person will have to answer one of the three questions. Do you understand? Any questions? Okay. Go.
Wow, Jack. This is an excellent example of authentic performance-based assessment. Asking the students to retell a story that they have already read is a great way to find out how much they really understood. I especially liked the teacher's use of the concepts of characters, setting, and plot. Those are ideas that the students can ideally transfer to other stories they might read.
I can do nothing but agree, Jill. This is a good example of formative assessment as well. The students are first having to discuss with their classmates, providing feedback to each other on their ideas, and creating responses for each of the questions. Then they have to present their ideas to the class, where the teacher will be able to evaluate each student and determine how well they've understood the story and the different characters.
Yes, Jack. You know, I also liked how the assessment aligned with the objectives the teacher mentioned. The students just learned about character, setting, and plot. And now they get an opportunity to show that they have learned by presenting to the class. Great work. Let's continue to watch.
Excellent. Thank you for those fantastic presentations. For your homework tonight, I want you to think about your favorite character from Huckleberry Finn and describe that character. You'll write 3 paragraphs. The first will describe what the character looks like. The second paragraph should describe the personality of the character, and the last paragraph should talk about any events in the story that are important for your character. Make sure to explain why you think those events are important and how they affected your character or his personality. In the homework section of your class website, I've included the rubric I will use to grade your assignment. It is the same rubric that we used last week, but I've changed a few things to match this assignment. So pay attention to that. For example, last week I didn't really pay attention to your grammar or spelling, but I have added that to the rubric for this assignment. I also included on the website some models for you to see and get some ideas. Remember, you can't copy those exactly, but you could use those models to help you understand what I want you to do and I expect you. Make sure to email me if you have any questions.
One Once again, Jack, an excellent example of authentic assessment. I like how the teacher moves from group work to a more individual assignment. That really allows the teacher to see if each student understood the concept of character and events.
That is so true, Jill. The teacher's use of a clear rubric in providing models for the students was very helpful. Overall, a great example of an authentic reading assignment. Shall we take a look at our next example?
All right, students, listen up. We've already talked about persuasion and what type of language you can use to present your reasons effectively to others. And you have done several 2-minute role plays in class. Well, tomorrow's the test. Aren't you excited? For your test, I will assign you a partner, and you will do a role play in front of the class. Your role play has to be at least 5 minutes long and must use all of the different phrases I gave you in class. You will have about 10 minutes to prepare your role play, and then I will choose one group at random to go first. Any questions?
Whoa, I think I see a problem here. Yes, this teacher's assessment doesn't seem to be aligned with what the students have already done in class.
Very good, Jack. I agree.
That's very good.
Yes. They only did a 2-minute role play before, and now they have to do one for 5 minutes? This seems way more difficult than a 2-minute role play. I could understand increasing it to 3 minutes, but 5 minutes? It's just too much.
2 minutes, 5 minutes with me, it's all the same, don't you think?
No. I also question how authentic this assessment is when the students are required to use all the phrases they were given in class. It just seems like they might have to invent situations that would use all the phrases instead of using real-world situations that come naturally to them.
Oh, I guess I see your point. Let's take a look at teacher number 3. 3.
Good morning, class. I hope you've been working on memorizing vocabulary lists I gave you last week because tomorrow we will have a test. You will need to know the spelling of each word and the definitions as they are in the dictionary. The test will have 2 types of questions. In the first type, I give you the word and ask you to write down the definition from memory. In the second type of question, I will give you the definition and you will have to write down the word spelled correctly. Do you have any questions?
Well, it appears that this teacher's assessment is aligned to our objectives, at least from what we can see here. She gave them a list of words and had them find the definitions in the dictionary. Then she's giving them a task that asks them to recall the spellings and definitions they've learned.
And I'm guessing that's really good, right, Jill? But I question the importance of her objectives. Aha! Sure, vocabulary is important, but just memorizing spellings and definitions of vocabulary words isn't going to help the students actually use the words when speaking or writing. I think this is a case of the teacher's objectives, activities, and assessments being aligned, but pointed in the wrong direction overall. Like you do so often, Jill, I think she's missed the mark.
That's it, Jack. I'm out.
Where'd she go? What? No. Hello? Yes. Apparently I've said something wrong, yet again. What? Oh, okay. Where'd she go? No, we're still rolling? Why? Okay, she's in the parking lot. She slashed my tires? No, okay. Well, all right, everyone, we'll see you next time.
Well, as you can see, there are many things to consider when designing appropriate assessments for your objectives. We saw some good and not so good examples in this video. In our next video, we will summarize all of the principles covered in this module to help you prepare for your module review quiz. See you next time on Teach English Now.